Hello and welcome to the last review show, the film review show that nobody asked for. My name is David Edgecombe and I'm joined by
Joel Linger
and
Roy Verlandschoot.
Excellent. Before we start, just a few bits of admin. You can follow us on Twitter at Last Review Show. Go to lastreviewshow.com, that's the old website. Find us on YouTube, Last Review Show, and then just scroll through all the other things that might be there. And follow us on SoundCloud. Last Review Show, search for the Last Review Show, right? That's it. That's
it. Yeah.
That's everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. Also, we're going to be any of the films we're going to be talking about today, which are Incendies and The Handmaid's Tale. Not really films, the things that have been recorded and people are in. Let's film, right?
Yes,
If it's on,
picture.
it's on telly, moving picture, right? Yeah. Celluloid not really celluloid anymore, but things that have been committed to some kind of recording device in a narrative fashion. Any of those things that we're going to be talking about, we're going to be using loads of spoilers. So yeah, watch out if you don't like spoilers. If you haven't seen the shows in question, or the film and the show in question, Incendies and The Handmaid's Tale, then turn off now or forever hold your peace. So let's move on firstly to discussing Incendies by Denis Villeneuve.
Yes,
Joel?
Yes, so as you guys already know, maybe some of our followers as well, is Denis Villeneuve is my favorite director right now, and
Bloody love him.
I do, and this is the first film I've seen of him called Incendies. So directed by Villeneuve and written by him as well, with a little bit of support from Valérie Beaugrand-Champagne.
Good one. Good, well done.
Yes, I'm not sure if she's married to someone who's famous for champagne, or if she is, her family is herself. But anyway, it's a great name to have.
Beaugrand-Champagne. What does that mean? Like nice big champagne.
Yeah, probably. It's a perfect name, actually.
Beautiful, great champagne up for a nice big.
I love it. It was released in 2010, and it stars Lubna Azabal,
There he goes.
Melissa Desormeaux-Poulin, and Maxime Godet.
Desormeaux. That must mean something like commiserations or something, I reckon.
Yeah,
And Poulin, that's a chicken.
Chicken.
So she's
okay.
called Melissa Commiseration Chicken. I
There's
think.
great names here. Right
Yeah,
there.
nice big champagne, and it's something like that. Desormeaux. There's something like shame or what a pity.
Yeah,
Pity chicken.
Great big champagne and pity chicken.
All right, sorry.
No, it's hilarious. Then it has 92% on Rotten Tomatoes and 80 on Metacritic. And they were, amongst other awards that they won or were nominated for, they were nominated for Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars, the Caesar Awards, and the BAFTA. So people were actually loving it. What the film is about, if you check the short description, it's about twins' journey to the Middle East to discover their family history and fulfill their mother's last wishes. Yep. So that's in short what the film is about.
Okay. It's about that.
Yep.
But it's got to be more interesting than just that.
It is, absolutely.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what is it that really grabs you about Incendies?
Well, the thing is, I mean, straight from the beginning, you see the twins, a boy and a girl, and they go to a notary because their mother has passed away, and he's going to read them the will. Right. And the will is kind of odd in a way, because they are not allowed to, put a headstone on the grave, and it's really like, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that, no funeral, nothing, just put me in the ground and that's it. And the reason for this is because there are certain secrets, and they have to first sort of like find out the truth before they are allowed to give their mother a proper burial, basically. And I must say that the notary, he has the mother was secretary of the notary for like 30 years. So the notary himself is also emotionally attached to the entire thing. But in the letter they read, the mother says, okay, if you find out the truth, or you found two people basically, you find them and hand them over these letters, then you're allowed to give me a proper burial. So one of the two people they need to find is their brother, which is a shock because they're not aware that they have a brother, and they need to find their father, and they thought that their father was dead.
Okay.
So it's sort of a triple shock. One, my mother, was crazy. Two, I need to find my brother that did not know that existed, and two, I need to find my father who I thought was dead.
Okay.
So that's sort of what kicks off the entire story. Now the story not only tells about the twins going to an unnamed Middle Eastern country, which most closely resembles Lebanon, but it's sort of kept ambiguous.
You're familiar with Lebanon, of course.
Of course, yes,
Right,
I'm there all the time. No, it's just like sort of a thing that there's a civil war. They speak French.
Yeah.
There was a battle between the Muslims and the Christians. So all those things together.
Okay.
Sort of.
I think it's also pretty important to mention that the mother is Christian.
Yes.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
a big theme that runs through the whole.
Good point. Yeah.
Through the whole movie. The fights or even the ethnic cleansing between Christians and Muslims in
Mm-hmm.
that area, which is not called Lebanon, but it basically is, or let's say Middle Eastern area, from the Middle East.
Yeah.
Middle Eastern.
Yeah. Correct. So basically the story not only tells about the twins going to find their brother and their father, but it also shows the history of the mother, what she did during the Civil War, how she was imprisoned, and how she was finally released, and in the end ends up in French Canada, basically.
Okay.
So basically that's the two things you see via flashback. You see what happened to the mother when she was younger, and you see in the present time the twins finding those two relatives, basically. Yeah.
Right. Roy.
Yeah.
What didn't you like about the film?
What,
Or what did you like? What were your thoughts?
First of all, my first reaction was very bleak, but it was on purpose. It's a very bleak story. I'm not sure if I can totally pinpoint what I do like or what I don't like, because it is also a bit of a movie which has such a heavy story that it sometimes, seems to be, it's hard to say if it's really good or really, or there are bad things for me. I was first of all I was quite shocked about some of the big plot twists in the family history. I was like, whoa, okay, that's something to keep in mind. If you want to be shocked by a movie, then this is one of the movies that basically shocks you. I'm not saying to an emotional core, but at least to like, okay, this is really fucked up with a capital F.
Okay, so full disclosure, I haven't seen the film. These guys have, so don't worry, we're not going completely blind. So, what is the big twist?
The big twist?
And I'm fully aware that I'm going to ruin the film for me now and never be able to see it. I'll go and watch it after this.
So, the mother is out of love with a Palestinian man,
Correct.
and she flew away from home for her first big love, and then she comes back home with the man and pregnant. Her family doesn't accept it at all. Kills her fiance or her boyfriend.
Yeah, honor killing.
Honor killing. Then she her first boy is born. Her boy is separated from her.
Forced to give it up for
forced
adoption.
to give it up for adoption. And then she goes. Yeah, she basically flees the house.
Yeah, so basically what happens is she later in the story gets imprisoned And she's been looking for her son, wasn't able to find him, and then she gets imprisoned, and then when she's in prison, she gets raped by a prison guard, and prison guard is her son.
Turns out to be her son.
But he doesn't know that, obviously.
No.
So the big shock at the end is they're looking for their father and their brother, which is the same person. So the big shock is, there's a brilliant scene where one of the twins says, 1 and 1 is 2, but can 1 and 1 also be 1?
Yeah.
That's like a brilliant scene, and that's where they find out that it's the same person.
And it also refers back to their mother, who was great at maths. Huh? She is she studies at the university. After she gave birth to her son, who turns out later to be the father of her twins. And the shock, or the first realization that this is the one and the same man, happens in Canada before she has this huge breakdown, before she actually goes mentally insane and dies, basically, in so many ways, not only physically but also totally mentally. She sees 3 points, like tattoo points on the back heel of this man she meets while having a swim in a random swimming pool somewhere, in a public swimming pool in Canada. And then she leans over the sides of the swimming pool, and she sees his foot and these 3 points, and she remembers this because when she gave birth, her grandmother, I think, tattooed these 3 points on the feet of her infant son, the firstborn.
So she could find him.
Yeah.
So then in the swimming pool, she sees him, recognizes him as the jailer, and then she looks at his foot and recognizes.
First at the foot.
Yeah,
and
correct.
Then she uses the language. She has a language, the same language where she comes from, and then she gets out of the pool. She turns around him. Of course, the camera too. Everything is neatly filmed.
Mm-hmm.
Camera turns around her, and then you see the face, and it turns out to be the face of the prison guard who raped her for a long time in this prison she was put in because she was trying to kill a Christian fundamentalist.
Correct. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yes. So it's basically sort of Game of Thrones then, but without all the dragons.
Exactly.
The dragons are more real.
And just to sort of like tell you what happened when I first saw the film. I saw it at an event.
Yeah.
Oscar weekend where you can watch Oscar nominated films, and usually. Because you can watch different films in different rounds. Usually people try to get up out of the cinema and out of the room fast after a film because they want to get on to the next film before all the seats are taken. But after this film, after the end credits, people were just sitting there quiet, just staring into nothing. Like everybody was so shocked, nobody moved, and just until like 5 minutes later, where the people who wanted to watch the next film in the same room started to come in, people started to wake up. I'm not exaggerating. Everybody who saw the film was just like speechless, like it's it's really a powerful film and a powerful ending as well.
I saw it on DVD on my own television. I was like, whoa, this is like, so that's what I meant. So the reaction to what's happening in the story and in the movie, is so heavy and so, in a sense, powerful, that it kind of, for me, was like, okay, what is then good or bad about the movie? I couldn't take that distance immediately.
Okay.
Like it gives, I do have some reservations.
Is it emotion? It sounds to me like it's a bit emotionally, like it's manipulating you.
No, not at all.
No,
I don't think,
because it sounds like it would be, or it could be, this shock twist is just a way to make you feel shocked and to make you feel speechless.
That's a good question. Yeah. I think there were some reviewers saying they really like the thriller components of the movie. So the plot is that there's always tension, and this is known of his later films also. How it is. How the shots are made, how the montage is, but does it go further than only being like a family thriller? Does it go a level deeper? Because it seems to have at least these pretensions, but then I was quite confused why they were using this city called Daresh, and why they weren't closer to, to, let's say, historical reality, was why did they make this choice? And I couldn't really find it actually. Why?
Why didn't they just make it Lebanon? Why didn't they just make it that?
Yes,
I guess it's because of the nature of the story. He wanted to distance it, maybe.
Yeah, it could be, but then again, the movie also, makes clear references in how. So they shot it they shot it partly, or even just for a couple of days in a Middle Eastern country. Jordan, sorry, and then the rest was in Canada. So they kind of, I don't know. Yeah, I was a little bit confused by that it wanted to go at the same time very specific but also abstract. There was a bit of a clash for me, so that I was shocked by the story, but I wasn't overcome with emotion, or I wasn't like having a lump in my throat or crying. I was like, holy crap, this is heavy shit. I would like to hear this when my mother asked me to find the truth after she died. And another thing was, I mean, after saying all these things about the plot and the story, which is so heavy, the movie was sometimes a little bit too suffocating, that it was too focused on the drama, and sometimes I hope there was a little bit, I mean, there shouldn't be like a comic relief character, but there a little bit of
hope or lightness, levity.
Levity also in areas where there's a civil war. Not everybody is dying every second of the day, but okay, I don't say that the movie like said that about the situation, but it was very how do you say, it was only dark and darker, and and then I thought, okay, might the brother be also the killer of somebody? And then it turned out to be the killer and the creator.
Was it melodramatic then? Did pathos dissolve or go into bathos?
Well, I don't think it was melodramatic at all, but I think that Denis Villeneuve is too good of a director and storyteller to make a melodramatic film, so I don't think it's like that at all. But I think one thing though, and I cannot answer that question myself, but it was based on a play. Denis Villeneuve saw the play and really wanted to do something with it. The playwright was reluctant, and only after seeing some completed scenes he actually gave his permission for them to complete the entire film.
Okay.
So I'm not sure to what extent they followed this play by maybe not naming Lebanon, for example, and things like that.
Okay.
And I must also mention that the story of the mother is partially based on an actual woman who killed a Christian fundamentalist terrorist in Lebanon and was imprisoned in a famous prison in Lebanon afterwards.
Christ.
So it's especially the part of the mother, maybe until the incest drama is actually true. I haven't researched it as much to know how much of the incest part is true, but especially the imprisonment, the rape itself, and the killing of a Christian fundamentalist terrorist is based on something that actually happened.
Wow.
That's the thing. I mean, I do think the movie itself, the tone of the movie is not has not a melodramatic tone. People are not, or the camera is not staying on actors who are crying their hearts out, or even the actors. They're all quite subdued, and it feels realistically acted, like a sort of realism we're used to the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But the pathos. So you were talking about the structure of the story. Felt for me very. Very structured, very literally. So there are some big, how do you say it, puzzle pieces, and they need to fit in the end. And also the scene where their son or her son says like, so could one plus one be one instead of two. And there was an earlier scene where there's this professor saying to their mother, okay, you have this sort of formula. And it basically says that 1 + 1 is not 2 or something. So there are possibilities also in the strict nature of maths that there is these things can happen in life. So there was a lot of these things which were like very I would say literary devices, and sometimes for movies they do work and sometimes they don't. And for me, this movie was sometimes just on the fine line of making the pathos then too melodramatic, because in the end it also says so from something, from a big love. So the mother and the Palestinian boyfriend. So from a big love, there comes a sort of a monster created by the environment. The environment pushes this etiquette on the mother and the son. The son goes into to an orphanage, and he ends up under the hands of fundamentalists, and he turns into this raging bull.
Yeah.
And then he basically destroys his mother's life, but from that the twins are born, which are twins who grew up in Canada, and they are relatively, let's say, they try to reconnect with the past, but they also try to find peace.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not into the war zone.
And
But
do
then for
they?
me-
I'm
oh,
guessing
sorry.
they also bring their mother joy. So he kind of got from the you've got this interesting up and down thing, right? You've got the joy
Yeah.
of the woman's love, first love,
Mhm.
and then the pain that she had to give away
Yeah,
the child, and then the pain of then she doesn't know it at the time, but
No.
then the child, then
but also the torture.
this guy torturing and raping her, and then
Mm-hmm.
from that comes the joy of her
Yeah, but
of
that's
her two children.
yeah,
Yeah, but you
yeah,
know,
but that's actually funny, because there is this character, this guy saying in the movie to her like, so you're released from this prison, so you gave birth to these twins, and we took care of them. We didn't kill them too, because the children were born during the prison
Yeah.
thing. And okay, now you go out and now you try to find them and you try to get your life moving, but you see her like she's totally broken.
mhm.
I mean, there is this small scene in the prison where she finds out that she's when she's pregnant, and during the pregnancy, she's stomping on her belly.
What to try to
Yeah, and I was like, I do understand the emotion, but then this I do understand the scene and the emotion, and it's very well filmed and acted, but then I can't really relate it to the end of the pathos, because it's so dark, and then these children, they're the light again, or they need to restart. But I would say it's not only traumatic for the woman and for her first son, but also for the twins. It's very traumatic, this family history.
But
And then you're not even talking about a possible metaphor for the Middle East.
but for me, I think you're not giving Villeneuve, I think, enough credit in that respect, because I do feel that he shows a lot of restraint, and you can see it in small things, like for example the moment when the twins figure it out, and then Jean, the girl anyway, she gasps sort of, and then she hugs her brother, and that's a moment that a lot of people would drag out, but then the scene is already over, and then they already move on to the next one. The moment when you see, for example, the son, who's also then the father of the twins, when you see what happens to him, you see only one scene where you see him being a sniper, basically. You seeing him shooting at people because he's under the wing of a warlord, basically. But they also don't drag that out or anything, or they don't make him, like the big bad sniper of the, of the warlord. You know what I mean? Like, he shows that restraint, and even in the end, where the son, is also the father of the twins, gets the two letters, and it's also a scene where I think Villeneuve shows restraint, and he does a good thing. It's especially something that is not happens a lot in Hollywood in general, is that you show a sympathy, for a rapist, and especially an incestuous rapist, even if he did it unwittingly, because in the two letters, that the mother has written, she in the one she writes a letter to the son, and she writes a letter to how do you say that? To the father, basically.
The father of the twins.
The father of the twins. And in a letter to the son, she says that she loves him. Because he's positive. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And in the letter to the father, you know, she said, well, you know what you did, how you destroyed her life, how you did this, and how you did that, but how he didn't break her in the end. You know, and for me, you know, that there's sort of the positive thing almost, you know, like in the way she expresses her love. That's not something that happens a lot in a Hollywood film, showing something positive, showing a love for someone who's a rapist, an incestuous rapist at that. You know, so I do give him credit for that. You know,
yeah, but that's the thing. I give him the credit for the fact that he's so much restraint within the scenes, within the tone of the film, but the overall structure, and that's also the source material, I suppose, is in a sense very heavy-handed, and might turn into a melodrama if you don't show restraint. So I'm not saying that he did that wrongly, but I think he almost needed to break, because if you would fully play it out to more what you would call more Hollywood laws of emotion, and then it would be like maybe scenes where the mother is crying a long time and just fulfilling this sort of feminine way of dealing with grief. And in this movie there were these details, but that's what I mean. The overall structure, the overall, the end punch, the pathos is really, it's for me it was kind of too. Yeah, that sounds weird because it's about very bad things, but for me it was a bit too clean then. I suppose if you hear these stories, I think if I heard a story that my father would be my brother, I would have a total mental breakdown.
Yeah. And
the characters, the twins, they do have a lot of sadness, and they find also comfort with each other, but there's no. I would have actually wanted to go on and see what kind of their mental states would affect. In a sense, the movie was also very bare bones.
You have to wait for Incendies too.
Yes, yes, Incendies too. Yeah.
Well, one question I wanted to ask you was, one of the things I found interesting is, Lubna Asabal, who plays her mother, she basically plays the same character for a period of 30 years, spans a time period of 30 years.
Wow. And
they were going to cast different actresses, but Denis Villeneuve found that she looks young enough to play a person who's 18 years old.
Yeah, that was,
did you find it distracting? Or
no, I didn't find it distracting. I was sometimes a little bit confused because they for example, they often gave these fake place names on the screen, but then they didn't really use the time, which you're smart enough to figure out yourself, but sometimes I was a little bit like oh wait a sec, we're now back in the current, so then the jump cuts were very seamless, and then suddenly it was the daughter who was searching for her mother in the same place where you saw the previous scene, which was in the past. So sometimes that was for me a little bit like it was very seamless, but maybe a bit too seamless.
Good point.
Too seamless.
Yeah.
So, any more thoughts on us? Okay, we haven't been pronouncing it properly. I think it's Incendies. There we are.
Incendies.
The German title is De Vrouw die Zingt, and that's also like a big plot device in the whole movie. That's how many people recognize the woman who the twins talk about. When they ask questions about to local people, do you know my mother? And then often they say it was the woman who sang, and they say, okay, or they totally shut up, or they say, okay, it's this woman, you have to go there, and she was in a prison. And so for some people in that area it stood for somebody who you couldn't talk about because it was a terrorist, or for other people it was more a martyr, or somebody who gave them sort of hope for the certain cause. And so it also reflects back on that conflict situation. And that's also why I was sometimes still a bit confused by the use of these abstract places during the movie, because it seemed to really try to refer to these conflict situations in the Middle East. And I think in the end the movie also says, if you take it very literal, maybe, then it says like there comes better from love. So in the end, love comes from love, because in an awkward way, her first son created twins. That's more than awkward. Yes.
Okay. Who knows? I'm not sure what you mean, but
in the sense that her son was basically made by war.
Yeah.
So he was brainwashed in a sense by certain forces, and he killed a lot of people, and he raped his own mother, and in the end, it's better to, don't do war.
Don't do war.
With what you said, like he was a product of love.
Yes, he was a product of love and the environment.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I find this interesting, and I find this also a relevant point, but I find it also kind of dubious in a sense, because I mean, there is what you said. There is still light in this man who did all these awful things, but also, I mean, he might also have genes and carry them through. So it's also, it's not either environment makes you like that, because war comes from the environment.
Would you watch it again? Would you watch it again? This is the ultimate test. This is the last review show test.
I definitely would. I haven't watched it multiple times, and I'm a Denis Villeneuve fanboy, so yes.
Okay, good. Stamp of approval.
And it's one of the best films ever made, I think.
One of the best films ever made. Big talk.
Okay.
There,
Yes.
from Joël Linger.
I would say I will watch it again to better understand it.
Okay, so
but I find it is a relevant movie.
apprehensive, that stamp of approval. It's kind of like it's like it's not very strongly stamped on.
No, it's not very strongly stamped, but it is a
faint.
Yes, faint, and it is a movie which tries to say something about difficult topics.
Okay.
In the world.
Okay, but you would watch it again, and I will watch it for the first time.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's go on to The Handmaid's Tale. It's a new series from HBO.
No,
it's not from HBO. It's from Hulu and MGM Entertainment. I lie.
Yeah.
So it's based on the novel by Margaret Atwood. The novel from 1985.
It's
I
an
think.
old one, yeah. No,
Or 83. It's around then.
Yeah, correct.
Early to mid 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Shall I go ahead and
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
But your idea, so you run with it.
Yeah. I wanted to do this because I think it's fantastic. The TV program and the book. So, just if you haven't seen it, just a quick synopsis of the premise.
Yeah. Also, a side note: we will mostly be discovering the first episode called Offred. Right?
Yes, we're just talking about the first episode because
Yeah.
I mean a lot of people will have only seen the first few episodes. It's up to episode 9 in the States and elsewhere in Scandinavia, I believe. But yeah, it's not out here in Germany yet, unfortunately, inexplicably, because it's a really good and very relevant and very important show. So the program is based on the novel by Margaret Atwood, also called The Handmaid's Tale, in which is a dystopia in which a fundamentalist Christian group called the Brothers of Jacob, I think it's the Brothers of Jacob, the Sons of Jacob, they have taken over the United States. So the United States has become this Christian fundamentalist theocracy after some unnamed environmental disaster or catastrophe or just degeneration has caused the infertility of most people. So for some unknown reason, no babies are being born, and then out of this insecurity and instability, this Christian fundamentalist group, they took over in some kind of government coup, in some kind of violent government coup. So now the people who are able to, the women who are able to give birth, who have recently gave birth just before the coup of the Sons of Jacob, they have become handmaids. These women who are basically kept as baby-making slaves, who are essentially raped by the high-up commanding officers of this new regime.
By the patriarchy.
Yes. Raped by the patriarchy, essentially raped by the patriarchy, but also actually physically raped in an attempt to create new children. and they have to go through a weird ceremony in which they sit between the legs of the wives of these higher ups. In an it's a way for the regime to make the wives feel as if they are also part of this process. So yeah, it follows this one handmaid called Offred. Oh, and all the handmaids take a patronymic name, which is of, and then the name of their rapist and the commander that they are under at that particular time. So our protagonist is called Offred. Although, what's her real name? I can't remember her real name.
I didn't either. Actually.
So she's given this new name Offred, but that can change. So if they go to a new one, they could go. If they went and then were Roy's handmaid, then it'll be of Roy or of Joel. So that's basically it, and it's a beautifully shot program. It's really, I think, very emotionally affecting and effective. And it's got Elizabeth Moss in it, who you may remember from Top of the Lake
Mad Men.
And I think she's fantastic. She's a great actress,
Absolutely,
right?
100%.
She's one of my favourites. So what do you think about it, guys?
The first thing I noticed was how gorgeous it looked. Like, it really is wonderfully shot, and it just has this great feel to it, and it looks great. And then when I was looking who directed it, it was Reed Morano, whom I've never heard of, and funnily enough, speaking of patriarchy, I assumed was a man, which it isn't, because Reed Morano is a woman.
Is she American? You never know with American names. Could be anything.
That's a good point.
They name people after. Look, she's named after just just grass.
Grass, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
They call people anything in America. What should we call? Let's call him Table. Right?
Yeah. So I should have been. It is tricky, absolutely. And then I also found out that she only had a directorial debut 2 years ago, which was Meadowland, which I have not seen. But she's been
never
mostly.
Heard of it.
Yeah. That is a movie. It's not part of the TV series.
No, that's a film, correct?
Okay.
And she mostly does cinematography, which she has also done for Final and for Kill Your Darling. So this is actually her second directing gig, and then deliver such a beautiful, gorgeous episode. It's it's commendable, but also you can maybe tell that she was cinematographer, because obviously she wasn't in this case, but I mean she has a very strong visual.
Good eye for it.
Yeah, exactly. So
absolutely. The colours in it are incredible, because you have the handmaids who are dressed in red, and then that contrasts with the wives who are dressed in this sort of bluey, greeny, aquamarine sort of thing. It's kind of greeny, isn't it? It's more, and then that contrasts with all the bleakness. A lot of it is very dark, actually.
I was actually thinking, for example, the red could stand for fertility and for
It
ovulation.
does, it stands for that.
So there's this whole system, this whole new system, which like permeates this new society, and you see it back everywhere. And that's because you were saying like the novel.
Go on.
So you were saying like the novel is from the mid 80s at least.
Yeah,
I mean, it is kind of. I was thinking also of 1984. That's one of the most famous examples of. It's about a society which is everybody watches everybody, and what I found very effective is because you guys were saying how good it looks, but also how it is filmed, because you have often close-ups or medium shots. Everything seems to be really cramped.
Yeah, it does make you feel claustrophobic.
Yes, that's the best way to put it. It feels very claustrophobic, but it also reflects how the society works, because they need to be watching each other, otherwise they will fall out with the regime. Basically women disappear, even they get biblical punishments. In the first episode there's an awful side plot about this young woman who doesn't want to commit to the new regime, And one night she's taken by some of the sisters. She comes back and she's her eyes are stabbed.
Yeah, it's eye for an eye, right?
Eye for an eye, and that reflects back on.
Actually, no, that's not it. It's like if my right eye doesn't please you,
then cut it out or something.
Then cut it out. That's
it's not eye for an eye
because
because she didn't.
There was another quote, but it's basically all going back to the more fundamentalistic interpretations of Christianity and of the Bible.
Well, it's more. I think it's less fundamental, more about how you can interpret the Bible in any way you want, or just generally religious texts. You can do whatever you like.
Well,
really,
I think
and find a precedent in the Bible or in whatever scripture you choose, right?
Yes, and also being very focused on the Old Testament, of course.
Yeah.
But you wanted to go finish up a little bit what I was saying before. Reed Morano definitely does a great job. But then the writer Bruce Mayer also, what I thought was funny, because he's known a little bit more for his sci-fi stuff, and this is more dystopian than science fiction, of course.
Well, there's a Venn diagram, right?
Correct. Yeah. But he's known for the 100, the 4400, and Eureka, which are all very sci-fi shows.
Yeah.
But I think he's done a great job. I think he's written the first 3 episodes of season 1 at least. I think. But he's done a great job, and then. We already talked about Elizabeth Moss, but also Joseph Fiennes, Yvonne Strahovski, Alexis Bledel, and Anne Dowd. Now, Anne Dowd just came from The Leftovers, which has recently had the series finale. And she's basically the aunt, you know.
I thought so. Yeah. The punishing sort of trainers.
Exactly.
Very very strict women.
Also, that's a great job. Now, Rotten Tomatoes. I haven't seen that before. I think 100% score up until now. And on Metacritic is 92, which is also crazily high. But these are both for the entire series overall. Yeah. So not only for the first episode, basically. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Okay, and Fiennes does well, right?
Yeah, because
a lot of people don't like Fiennes. Yeah, really. Joseph Fiennes.
Yeah, Joseph Fiennes. But for me, one of the things, it's not his fault, but Shakespeare in Love was overrated. And it's not his fault, but
it's the only other thing he did, right? But,
I know.
But he's most famous for it.
Yeah, what he was famous for. It's one of the things I have against him, even though it's not fair. And then he was also in this show, a bad NBC, I think, TV show, where he was a lead actor, and then I hated him in that. Wasn't it? When all the electricity is gone or something. I don't remember the name. It doesn't matter. It's really bad.
He was also in Killing Me Softly with Heather Graham.
But I haven't seen that. So.
But that's not a very good movie. But there's a lot of nakedness in it. I say that.
That's good, I guess. But anyway, so I'm not a big fan of his. But what I like about his performance in this is, I don't know where it's going. So I haven't read the book, but you can tell, that he's. I feel that he's struggling a little bit, like he...
You think?
Yeah, I feel like you can tell that there's a little bit of undercurrent of emotion there, that he's maybe not actually happy with the way things are, even though he's apparently a very high-up commander.
Yeah.
So he's actually somebody and everything, but I feel that there is more to him than meets the eye.
You need to see the later ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really, he's a very interesting character.
Yeah. Okay.
And they do develop him. And actually, all the characters, while in the first episode they might seem just these very two-dimensional archetypes, dystopian archetypes. They really really flesh people out with some backstory and some very unpredictable behaviour. Okay. Sometimes you think, I didn't expect them to do that. So it should definitely stick it in.
I must kind of disagree, because I've only seen the first episode, and same as for Joel. I must say that there's already so many details in it that I'm already hooked, because of maybe not even the main storylines, but also these subplots, and what Joel said, the doubt in the performance or in the characters already You know, they're already giving small hints, and that's great, even for a first episode.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it is worth 100% or anything, but I was really fascinated, not only how it looked, but also the storylines, and just also like these small scenes where you saw a little bit of shade in the character already, like there is doubt, or there's one of the, she always walks with
so Alexis Bledell's character.
Yeah, always walks around, and then during the first episode, first they're seen as, you know, she's gonna betray me because she's always bitchy, but in the end she actually kind of shows another side.
There was a nice touch as well, because she calls Offred calls the other one a pious bitch.
Yes.
But then, you know, the girl herself thought that Offred was a pious bitch, and just because she talks about it before, because when they're talking about Moira, right?
Yes.
Then she realizes, okay, you know, Offred is not a pious bitch, and vice versa, and that's why they first open up to each other. So I thought that was cleverly written.
I think that's an interesting observation about how that kind of society makes everyone
distrust each other.
Distrust, and make everyone think, oh, you're the bad one in this situation.
Yeah. And also there's a lot of jealousy. The most famous example is the wife of the commander, because she's she's put within the hierarchy far above the character of Elizabeth Moss, but Elizabeth Moss, she can probably give birth to the child of her husband. So she's actually a very pained character. You know.
Also,
she might be a bitch, but there is, you know.
Yeah. Also, because like you said,
she loses her power.
Yeah, she loses her power.
No.
But she's higher than all the other women. But she's also still clearly much lower than her husband as well. Though.
That too. Yes.
Because in the end, when they go into the room for a meeting, you know, she stays there. You know, and that's also where you see, okay, she might be highest as a wife, you know, but she's still lower because she's not a man. And then she has like you know, Offred, you know, who offers something that she hasn't. So it makes it a very complicated emotional situation for the wife, definitely.
And that's also like these mechanisms, like when you read, for example, 1984, there's also like references to older class societies. So it is kind of, in this series also shows already in the first episode, our future might actually look more than some of our pasts, like a strong classes, a division to keep this so-called power structure. So some people say you never know, you know, if you change this law or you change that law, but sometimes societies are closer to a breakdown or an older, worse version of than we think.
Well, actually,
that's what I found interesting. That the future doesn't necessarily.
Famously,
so
Atwood, she said she didn't put anything in the book that hadn't already occurred or was occurring in the world. So,
well, that's interesting. I think it's a bit extreme, because in that sense, and I have to. Sorry, I know it's not a political show, but I have to say something about that. Like, I mean, for a dystopian show, I feel the show feels very realistic, and I think it's also credit to Atwood and what she probably portrayed in a novel that I've been hearing other people say as well. But some anti-Trump people who were saying that under Trump this might actually happen, I think that's insane, because one, you know, Trump is not even close to being a Christian, and two, you know, Trump is not conservative, you know, like he's way too liberal himself to be able to create a society like that.
Well, no, the point I think of this, I think the points that the show and the book make, they're much more subtle than that. I think that there are reflections of us. It's an extreme reflection of what could happen, and of some things that do happen in our society. For instance, one of the more obvious things is that the women take a patronymic name, and in this instance, it's their whole name becomes based on the man. But I mean, in Western tradition and in a lot of other traditions, the woman does take the man's name.
Yes.
And she becomes, I don't know, if someone married me, they might choose to take my name, and they would become Mrs. Edgecombe. That's Mr. Edgecombe. So it literally is of Edgecombe. So I mean, that's just one example of where the film takes a bit of an extreme example of what actually does happen in society, right?
Yes. Yes. I don't think that anything like that actually can happen, but yes, it's true.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, that dystopia might not, that probably won't come to pass, right? And it's not a prediction. It's an extreme. You have to be shown extremes, I think, in order to see some of the more subtle ways in which women are undermined in our own society.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, and also this again, this was all in the first episode. So many things happen. In the end, there is this guy who's seen as a prisoner, or he did something wrong in that society, and he basically raped a woman.
Well, they're told that he raped.
They're told that he raped, but anyway, he is within that power structure. He did something wrong and he needs to be punished. And they, the people, who kind of give the verdict, they let it be acted out by the other suppressed, which are the handmaidens. So the handmaidens are punishing this man, literally attacking him physically.
Yeah. They rip him apart.
They rip him apart, basically.
I think that's for me also I think to give them some sort of sense of power.
That is to give them. That's to channel their anger and to channel everything, right? It's also it's almost it's like that gladiatorial thing, and you find it in every single dystopia, almost every single one. There is some situation in which the populace are allowed to be really, really brutal. It's very controlled, but in that controlled situation, the populace, can be. It's a bit like gladiators in the Roman times, right? They see this gore, and it's their way, in an oppressed society, of getting out their anger.
Yes, and it's also
it's like a controlled outlet valve, right? So.
But one negative thing though, negative is too strong of a word, and that's 100% on the Rotten. Sorry.
Go for it. You're right.
Yeah. That's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, but the one thing, and this in general, maybe the screenwriter in me, when you write a screenplay or a teleplay, according to the rules, you can only write down things you can see, right? Because it's a visual medium.
Okay, yeah.
So that's why, even though, like we discussed last time, there are a lot of famous films with narration, it's sort of like a no-go, because you're being lazy. You know what I mean? Because
is there narration in the first episode?
Yes, of course there is, and or you hear inner voice at least. So
because I didn't think there was inner voice in the first few episodes.
Yes,
there is definitely later on,
but there's in the first episode as well. Well, I think is one of the first things we hear even. But and why I think it is a little bit lazy. You can see why it is. It can be considered lazy. Is at the end. She you hear her inner voice talking about how she feels about Moira most likely being dead, even though our witness or our source might not be the most credible. So I feel we'll see her again. But she says like, okay, Moira's dead, but she sort of stares like almost not defiantly, but like. Resistantly, like I'm going to go on. I'm going to stay alive, for my child. That's the reason why she's going to keep going. But I feel like you could have shown that. I think her emotions, in her face. And Elizabeth Moss is a great actor.
She's such a great actor. Everything is clear on her face.
I don't have to hear her inner voice say that. But a lot of time when you do, something that's based on the book. There's so much information that they feel that they have to put in some kind of narration to capture the entire load of the book and the inner voice you hear that you cannot have in a visual medium. And I think that it's not necessary.
Okay.
Elizabeth Moss is good enough. And to me, the final scene of the first episode said enough. I knew that she was going on for her child.
I think it is made clear. Yeah. But I think you kind of answered your own criticism there because it's trying to incorporate the first person narration of the book a bit. Maybe that was it, I don't know. But I do agree that they might not need it, and actually I don't enjoy the narration parts. I think it's better being shown, and you're right. Elizabeth Moss, she actually deliberately didn't wear any makeup for her. She said, I don't want that, especially the close-up shots of the Handmaid, so that they could see everything in her face. And it really is so powerful and effective.
Yeah.
She is so subtle as an actress.
Absolutely.
Brilliant, right?
It's actually funny because we were the movie we were talking about before, Incendies. It also is about, at least in the first part of the movie, it's about a person, again a woman who goes on because of a child. You know, I just don't hope the same happens. But you were talking about the technique, and in Incendies there is no voiceover, and also on the power of the actress. You feel that she has this relentless, searching and power to survive, to get to see her, basically your legacy, which is your child. Which for me, if you look at the Handmaid still, because they are so focused on giving the world a legacy, or that group of people with that kind of society and attitude, that it's also kind of ambiguous that like so many people in Handmaid are searching for children, for the new generation, and also the main character who's suppressed because of this search. Also, she also looks for the survival of her own kind. It's kind of funny. So they might go, or she might actually start to partly understand her suppressors, because she has the same search. She has the same.
I see.
And again, of course, that's a doubling device, you know.
And
so the victim is actually in the same kind of search as the
society in which she
so they
finds
search
herself.
They search for Moira. They search for this new blood, the survivor. Yeah.
So and also with the one-eyed bee, I want to know what happened to her. Why is she pregnant? And I hate her, but I do want to know what's going on. And also Offred, and her companion, them finally, opening up to each other, and I want to know where that goes. Everything together. There's so many, major plots, subplots, and everything is interesting enough. No plot or nothing seems to be just a side plot or a filler plot. I know we're only talking about one episode, but everything together, and how gorgeous it looks, and Elizabeth Moss, like I'm on board all the way. It's been renewed for a second season already, so I'm in.
Yeah. Great. Good to hear it.
How about
you? Because at first, the first for me, maybe I was just in a when I watched it, the emotional place I was at, maybe it wasn't great. I don't know, but I watched it and I found it really difficult to watch the first episode. And I thought, maybe I'm not going to watch this because this seems so bleak. This is almost like I don't know. No. It's almost what would be the word? I don't know, like dystopia porn. Like this is just made to make me feel bad, and somehow revel in that emo sense of I don't know, this depressive, really hopeless kind of situation in which Offred finds herself.
It makes you feel like Kylo Ren.
Yeah, it made me feel so bad. I just thought, this is well made, but do I want to carry on with this? Is this going to actually? Is this going to give me anything in my in my life? But I carried on with it due to the recommendation of a friend. And I found it really very rewarding carrying on. So if you do find the first episode, it is very bleak, just a warning, carry on, because it's worth it, definitely. So I'm really hooked. I've seen the first 9 episodes and it's brilliant, really great.
For me, the alarm bells of some great novels like 1984, Brave New World, they go off again when Joelle said about there is a war going on, and then I thought like, but is that Eurasia, or you never know, because it could all be propaganda to keep this society. These, I just like this this kind of, let's say, a genre. It's called the dystopian genre, and you had a valid point. Will it be? Might it be dystopian porn, or that you only get depressed about and stuff? But no, I'm really willing to see at least the first season too, and then yeah, I think it will be good. I think it will be really good. And there's also something with her name. There's something going to happen. It's going to be a big revelation. It's going to be a big sacrifice. Offred.
Offered, yeah, okay.
Oh, because of the offer or something like that. Oh, because it sounds like offering or something. You think?
No, sacrificing. Offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a ritual offering, like a sacrifice. Okay, that could be something. I don't know. I honestly can't say.
But yeah, go try it. It's yeah, certainly.
Great. Okay, so today we've been talking Incendies by Denis Villeneuve, and also Handmaid's Tale, so both films have had unanimous approval ratings. Well, apart from the first one I didn't see, but I'm going to, and then I'm going to give it my approval. So it's been the Last Review Show. Follow us on Twitter at Last Review Show. Go to lastreviewshow.com. That's our blog. You can read anything you like there, and go to Last Review Show on SoundCloud. That's where you'll find the audio version, and find us on YouTube if you haven't already. I guess you might be watching us, so you know where to find us. That's YouTube. Search Last Review Show up in the search box there. So I've been David Edgecombe, and these guys have been once more
Joël Linger
and Roy Verlandschoot.
So great. I hope to see you next time. Have a good day or night or whatever. Bye.
Bye.